People often ask me why the Malays became renowned for producing some of the world's finest blades. Many assume it was because they possessed extraordinary knowledge of metallurgy. I personally would disagree. Okay, hi guys, and welcome back to another unboxing video. It's actually been quite a while since I last did one. Now, if memory serves me right, the last one I did was sometime last year. Quite a lot has changed since then. For those who have been following the international antiques market, especially collectors of ethnographic weapons, you will know that exporting anything remotely resembling a weapon from the United States has become considerably more troublesome. Since around June of 2025, more paperwork, more regulations, more dealers simply deciding it's not worth the trouble. For me personally though, that wasn't really the biggest reason. Truth be told, nothing coming out of the American market has really caught my attention lately. Maybe my standards have gone up, or perhaps after 30 years of collecting, experience naturally filters the gem from the rubbish. So I wasn't expecting to buy anything then. Until earlier this month, I saw a listing. One photograph, that's all it took. I knew immediately this one is coming home with me. Not from Europe, not from Indonesia, not from Malaysia, not even from the United States. Argentina. Yes, Argentina. In over 3 decades of collecting kerises from around the world, I honestly don't think I've ever purchased one from South America. Now, before the simpletons appear in the comments claiming this proves Malays sailed to South America and taught the Incas how to forge kerises, relax. Use the same energy to boil some water. This keris was obviously not made there. Objects travel, people travel, collections travel. From what the antique dealer shared with me, this keris came from a family whose patriarch traveled extensively during the 1970s and frequently brought home curios and antiques from overseas. That story makes perfect sense. The keris itself, however, is considerably older than the 1970s. Much older, but it isn't 1,000 years old. Let's not get carried away. Based on what I'm seeing so far, I would comfortably place it somewhere in the 19th century. Certainly over 100 years old, possibly a little earlier, perhaps the late 18th century. But at this stage, the evidence points more convincingly towards the 1800s. And evidence always comes before imagination. Now let's have a look. First impressions, this is a very small keris, what we would classify as a Keris Selit, a blade intended to be tucked into one's attire as a personal ceremonial accessory rather than a battlefield weapon. Pieces like these often reveal far more about the owner's personality than his ability to fight. And look at the condition. For something that's well over a century old, remarkably, it is well preserved. There is honest wear throughout, exactly what I like seeing. Not artificial aging, not modern distressing, real history. The hilt has clearly undergone repairs. Not recently, but I would wager that these repairs were already there long before the family acquired it in the 1970s. The blade itself is beautiful. Notice this pronounced central spine, deep fullers on both sides, and collectors in Peninsular Malaysia would immediately recognize similarities with what we commonly call a Keris Malay. Now, interestingly, there's no obvious visible pamor. This appears to be an iron and steel construction. Yet look closely at the color. That characteristic gunmetal tone. Very little corrosion. That makes me wonder whether besi towo may have been incorporated into the billet. Now, besi towo is quite an interesting material. Naturally occurring, highly resistant to corrosion. Now, I've actually been wearing a besi towo ring here on my right hand for almost 3 years. No polishing, no oil, no special treatment. It still looks almost exactly the same way it did when I first received it. Anyway, I digress. You're probably wondering, Pak Joe, how much did this little fellow cost? Less than 500 Singapore dollars. For an authentic antique, I'll happily take that deal any day. Once properly restored, its value will almost certainly be considerably higher. Now, another detail that caught my attention is this brass pandoko. Notice the casting quality. This wasn't machine-made. This was produced using the traditional lost wax casting process. Very similar to several 19th century brass betel and tobacco containers I've collected over the years. The provenance feels remarkably consistent, most likely somewhere in Sumatra, Pagaruyung perhaps, or perhaps another lesser-known Malay kingdom. That will require further study, and that's precisely the point. Collectors don't stop at buying. Collectors continue researching. Personally, I find antique Keris Selit from Sumatra increasingly difficult to find today. Finding one in this condition is uncommon. Finding one complete with its original hilt, original pandoko, original fittings, now that's genuinely rare. But rarer still is developing the eye to recognize it. That's something no amount of money can buy. Experience cannot be inherited. It cannot be downloaded. It cannot be copied from Facebook. It is earned. One mistake at a time, one lesson at a time, one collection at a time. These days, the market is flooded with mass-produced goodies. They are everywhere. They are loudly marketed. They are heavily romanticized, yet they leave me completely indifferent. Most serious collectors I know feel exactly the same way. What's disappointing isn't the Keris themselves. It's watching misinformation spread faster than knowledge. Many who know better choose to remain silent. I don't. Falsehoods deserve facts. Nothing more, nothing less. People often ask me why the Malays became renowned for producing some of the world's finest blades. Many assume it was because they possessed extraordinary knowledge of metallurgy. I personally would disagree. The real answer is something else entirely, and that we'll save for another video. Until then, remember this: the strength of a civilization is never measured by the stories it tells about itself. It is measured by how honestly it preserves the truth. Build a legacy upon myths, and every generation that follows inherits something weaker. Build it upon evidence, and every generation inherits something stronger. Think about it.